And let me just share my screen and we'll get started. Let's see here. Share. Uh, here. And if you want to go on mute for just a little bit, there's a little bit of background noise, and we'll perfect. So let me just start by introducing you to Lovable. Lovable is a prompt-driven, uh, full stack application builder. I've built more than one application with Lovable. Um, multiple, more than one of those applications have entire integrations, from integrations with OpenAI to integrations with Stripe to integrations with Plaid. And none of that stuff I wrote any code for. All of it was done with prompting. Doesn't mean that the code couldn't be optimized, right? So once you got past the idea, once you got past the initial phase and everything was working and the MVP proved itself out, it doesn't mean you wouldn't go back and really kind of start refining it yourself and maybe just kind of take the code base over. But on the other hand, if you took the code base over, you can still go back into Lovable and you can still continue to build it and with prompting. So basically, I can commit to GitHub, it can commit to GitHub, and if I commit, it'll pull that commit in and continue working from there. And so really, it's built with the engineer in mind, such that we can, collaborate with it. We don't have to do it all with prompting. But I got to be honest with you, I'm going to show you a product that I built called Flowsheet tonight, and I believe I maybe have written 20 lines of code, and it's a completely integrated solution. So, but tonight let's build something a little bit different. So we're going to create an engineer's, feedback dream. Basically, what we're going to be able to do is we're going to drop a code snippet from a PR into the app, and it's going to send that to OpenAI, and it's going to have OpenAI analyze the code snippet and provide some kind of pithy comment, something funny, something sarcastic, something engineers would understand, and allow us to then, have kind of, I don't know, funny, sarcastic, kind of witty feedback on our PRs. Something that we all would love to be able to do. So all we're going to do is give it this little prompt, and then we're just going to tell it to go. And from there, it's going to start building the application. Okay. And that is if it doesn't get stuck, because sometimes the initial prompt gets stuck, but it looks like we're in good shape this time. And so that's a really good thing. Yep. So here we go. So it's going to create the PR feedback system. Now, one of the things I know I'm going to need is I know I'm going to need an API key from OpenAI. Okay. Um, so let me just go ahead and go to the OpenAI platform and let's create a new. Um, I got to create a new. I don't do this every day, so just hang tight with me here. I've got to create. Oh, I need to log in first. There we go. I got to create a new like application and then an API key for that, right? So that we can use it and actually integrate with it. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to create a new project. We'll just call it what did Lovable call it? Snarky code review. So snarky code review. All right, create that. And then what we're going to do from there is we're going to go to the dashboard, I think, if I remember correctly. Yep. And we're going to go to API keys and we're going to create a new API key. Okay. We'll do that in just a second when it asks for it, but eventually it's definitely going to ask for an API key. And now you can see it's telling you it's building all of these pages and all of this backend and all this stuff. And we're going to integrate it with a database and everything. And so we'll do all of that in under 60 minutes. That's how fast you can build things with Lovable. Let me, while it's working, because it's still working, let's create a new one. So we're just going to say webinar key. Okay. And we'll click create secret key. And of course, we'll need to copy that out to Notepad or something. Right. because it won't display it but one time. Okay. All right. So let's see what happened here. So we have some kind of syntax error, some kind of build error. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to try and fix it. Okay, looking for the try. Here we go. Try to fix. Just like us, sometimes it generates code that doesn't work. Um, extra, brace in this case, it looks like things like that. But it's very, very good at recovering. Um, and it's very good at, even with the new agent mode, it's very good at identifying its own mistakes as well. Okay, it looks like it's identified the mistake, I hope. Okay, looks like it fixed the CSS error according to its view on things. Let's refresh it. Okay, here we go. So it generated its own kind of idea for a UI, right? PR roast, get sarcastic AI feedback. Okay, it's asking for the API key here. I'm gonna let's do something a little different. Let's say, um, how about instead of putting the secret key into the application, we host that as a Supabase. We're going to say we'll say a Supabase secret and leverage a function to integrate with OpenAI, right? But before we do that, we got to come over here to Supabase, connect it. Okay. So we're going to connect a project. I don't have one yet, so we're going to create one. We'll call it Snarky Code Review. Okay. And what is Supabase? Supabase is a Postgres SQL um, database in the cloud, is what it is. It's a fully scalable Postgres, database in the cloud, very powerful. Um, I use it to host the applications I talked to you about, like Flowsheet, and of course, where you signed up. That's actually built by Lovable. It has a database as a backend. You can see it right here, Code Mentor AI. And so everything that I've done there is connected and built and integrated all with Lovable. And so if I go back over here, we have to wait for it to be provisioned. Looks like it's still provisioning it. We'll give it a second. And then what I wanted to do is I want to get it to where, as a user, you just come in here, you use the API key I've provided, for the application. You don't need to bring your own. And when you use that API key, you're able to just put in the code snippet, and you should get some kind of comment out of it. And then we'll go out in the web and we'll get some code snippets from somewhere and see if we can provide some comments. We just got to wait for this provisioning to finish. Okay, looks like it's provisioned. Should be available for use. There we go. Okay. Snarky code review. Okay, it looks like it's connected. It's just kind of letting you know what you can do because it noticed you're connected to Supabase now. And so what we're going to do is we're going to send this prompt here in just a minute. Let's make sure we got everything we want. How about instead of putting the secret key into the application, we host that as a Supabase secret and we leverage an edge function to integrate with OpenAI. Now, it's going to ask me in just a minute at some point, or at least generally it does, to give it the secret key so that it can actually initialize the secret value. So, yep, see here I can add the API key. So we'll go ahead and copy this. Okay. We'll put the API key in. And now it's going to go to business refactoring the application to, basically bring into view the functionality I asked for. In the meantime, let's see, we're about 11 minutes in. We have a database connected and set up. We have code that is ready, probably mostly ready to integrate with OpenAI. We have OpenAI initialized. So let's just go out here and, you know what, let's go to ChatGPT. And let's say, give me some interesting code snippets that we might see in a code review. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. It doesn't matter what language it's in, right? It doesn't make any difference. We'll just use some of these different options, JavaScript, C Sharp. We'll just to test the application and see how well it responds to these kinds of things. Let's come back over. Okay, there, it's refactored the application. Before we jump in too quick and just test it, let's let's do something. Let's look at the code it generated, right? Let's take a look at the code that backs this application. So here's all the code that backs the application. It uses a framework called Vite, which is just a TypeScript React-based framework. It uses TypeScript as its primary language. You can see in this case it's using Tailwind for its CSS, right, for its UX. This README is going to have some important pieces of information, how you can clone it, those so on and so forth, and stuff like that, right? Now, if we look here, we have this SUPA base folder. See that? In the functions, we have this analyze code function. This is a TypeScript function that is running on Supabase. So if we go over here to Supabase to Edge functions, here it is, analyze code. Okay. And so we can actually look at what it's doing. Let's take a quick peek at it. Looks like it's got some access control stuff. I think we're going to find out, but we may have an issue because doesn't have the X application name header. Lovable keeps doing that for whatever reason. They have a little issue where they don't add that when they build the new functions, but we'll see. Um, Here we go. This is the actual endpoint, right? The code that's hosting that post. And so it's just doing some basic stuff. Hey, we need to have code. Boom, grabs the OpenAI key from this is Dino is like the Supabase environment, basically. Think about, how Node has its environment during runtime, right? This is the runtime that exists and the environment that exists while these are running in Supabase. And so it's going to check and make sure there's an OpenAI key. And then here's the prompt that it's actually sending to OpenAI. So you're a sarcastic but knowledgeable senior engineer reviewing code in a PR. Your job is to provide witty, sarcastic, but constructive feedback that engineers would find funny and relatable. Be pithy, clever, and a bit snarky. Reference common programming names, patterns, or frustrations that developers face. Look at this. It built the prompt for you, right? Based on the way we defined or kind of described the application. And then right here, it's going to throw the code in here, right, from the user. And so now you might say, well, there's a security issue because it doesn't actually, um, you know, it doesn't actually end up escaping this code. Well, not really, because OpenAI is not going to execute this code, right? So OpenAI is just good. It doesn't matter what they put in here; they're not going to be able to inject into OpenAI any more than they would be able to if they were using ChatGPT. Okay, and so no issues there. It's going to actually do the chat completions. You can see it actually knows the API and how to call it and all that information, and then provide a response. Okay, so that's it built all of that, and I didn't write any code for that, right? It also built the app, the actual, app with routing. It built some CSS, obviously, to do that. It's got some components it built out. Look at all these components it built out that typically a development team would have to either get from some library they paid for or build them themselves. But all of these are already available. And it will build custom components if it has to meet your requirements, depending on what you ask it to do. Okay. It's got a code input component. I mean, all of this code was built in a matter of minutes rather than a matter of days or even weeks. There's a lot of code here actually, and it may have taken weeks. So we've seen the connect between the application here and Supabase, right? And so let's try it and see what happens. So let's grab one of those code snippets from ChatGPT, drop it in here, and get roasted. Let's see what happens. See if we end up with a bug or if everything works as expected. Looks like something's off. Let's see if the edge function even got called. Okay, so we can go here to the edge function. We can determine if there was an invocation. Looks like there was an invocation. Okay, an options invocation. But I have a feeling that it threw an error. So if we look at the logs, okay, all it caught was the options invocation. It never did actually post, right? So something went wrong. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and kind of clear this. I mean, you have to debug this just like you'd have to debug any other application, right? I mean, it's running like any other application. And so, you can actually debug this just like anything else. And let's see what's happening here. Let's see if we can kind of catch what's going wrong with the edge function. Okay, I don't seem to have any logs that are of any real particular interest to me. Oh, it looks like it actually worked. Let's take a look at the invocations. Let's take a look at OpenAI and see if we see an actual usage. Yep, I see a usage. There's a request. And so back over here, let's see here. The classic premature optimization move reserving 128 characters for a string that'll be what, 10 bytes long? Okay, look at this. What do you think about this so far? You think this is
Yeah,
pretty
pretty
awesome?
much a useful tool and pretty much interesting also.
Right? I mean, we're getting real feedback from OpenAI. We haven't written a single line of code, right?
Yeah.
Let's let's try a different one. Let's let's go with this one right here. Over-engineered one-liner. Let's see what OpenAI says about that. Bitwise wizardry, because the modulus operators for mere mortals, right? This is a great application, actually. Oh man, this is hilarious. Uh, and let's look at OpenAI again. We should now see two total requests under usage. It's pretty real time. Um, it lags a little, and so we may see a slight lag on the actual requests, but you can see how many tokens were actually requested and everything. So the input was 224, the output was 152. That was with our first request, right? And that's really small. It would take a long time for this to cost you a lot on OpenAI's platform with this kind of stuff, right? Until the inputs token, but really it's the output tokens that cost you the most. Okay, so whenever you're integrating with OpenAI, you always want to keep your output tokens as confined as possible, right? Let's see what it says about let's see here, accidental complexity. Oh, this ought to be a good one. This is just fun now. The math Olympics, clearly, you're going for the gold. Oh, this is hilarious, man. I actually need to release this so that we can actually put this out in the wild for engineers everywhere. This is incredible. Um, okay, so give me a feature. Tell me something you want this thing to do that it's not doing, or is it perfect the way it is?
Yeah, the thing we worked right earlier, some kind of extraction kind of feature, we can think of it. Maybe the user upload a document from there, we can extract the details, like suppose claim document. If the user upgraded a claim document, we want to extract the minimum features like driver details and accident date. This kind of feature details I want to extract. That kind of feature I'm thinking.
You could absolutely build something with Lovable that can do that because you can send it to OpenAI or you could set up this application to connect with something in the enterprise, right? And so you could absolutely do something where you uploaded a document and parsed it. Now, if it had PII, you wouldn't want this thing to integrate with OpenAI out here on the platform because that information would then be not private unless you were working with OpenAI enterprise licenses, in which case those are actually closed and the data is not necessarily open, but it isn't even as secure as, say, Azure OpenAI, right, where it's deployed to there. So what you would do there is you would actually create an endpoint in Azure OpenAI, and you would basically turn the OpenAI endpoint into a configurable URL. So in this case, in the code that was written for the function, right, down here, what you would do is there's a couple things you could do. Number one, you could just come in here and put in the URL for the for Azure OpenAI for the enterprise, right? And of course that would be secured and probably require even an OAuth handshake, things like that, right? Well, the OAuth secrets could be held in Supabase, right? So effectively over here in Supabase, you could come over here, create a secret. That secret would be, say, the OAuth secret for the actual Azure handshake. So that way you can secure this down, but yet still reach OpenAI on Azure. Or imagine this, it could even be a Llama endpoint on Azure, right? It doesn't have to be OpenAI. It could be anything that's deployed to Azure but secure for the enterprise. And that's how you would take this that was already built and effectively turn it into something way different, deployed to the enterprise, but yet built publicly with Lovable. And here's what's cool with Lovable. Actually, this is in a workspace, which means it's a workspace only I can see. Okay, this particular application is not public to all of Lovable, for example, but they also have an enterprise license. Now, I don't know how the enterprise license works because I haven't implemented it, right? But the enterprise license is likely much like an enterprise license of ChatGPT or any of those things, where you would probably have single sign-on authentication. There'd probably be an enterprise kind of all-you-can-eat tokens license as far as like how much you can communicate with Lovable and so on and so forth. You can see here, I actually have a certain number of credits remaining. I pay for a subscription, right? But I'm sure the enterprise subscriptions look much different on paper, right? And so you could have that, and check this out, you can connect it to GitHub, and it does not have to be a public GitHub. It doesn't. It can be a private enterprise GitHub. And right now, boom, that's it. I'm already in GitHub. I can go to this link right here, and this is the actual code base, and that's where it'll be checked in. That's where all the commits will go, everything. We're on GitHub just like that. And so you could actually connect the enterprise's GitHub account to Lovable. All of the code is private, right? Everything is set up in a way that you can absolutely develop it and still retain, um, still retain the rights to the code and all those kinds of things. Can you see how that would work?
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah, I really think if we learn as engineers how to coexist with artificial intelligence instead of letting it replace us, or instead of letting the engineer next to us replace us because they're using it. If we advocate for this kind of tooling, imagine how quickly you could build an internal tool that did something very specific, like some kind of internal tool um, that had a dashboard and leveraged data from all different places inside the enterprise. All of that could be built with Lovable and built way faster than you can ever imagine because of it. Let's see. I don't know what's happening here. We got something. Let me hit refresh here. It's having trouble with the live preview for some reason. Oh no. Did we lose everything? What happened? Just by connecting GitHub. No, it's all still here. It's just having trouble rendering it for some reason. Index. I bet index doesn't even look like that. Something else is off. Books, pages. I've never seen this problem before. No, it's all here. Yeah, yeah. Let me get out of this application, go to the dashboard. There's probably some bug after I connected it to GitHub. What happened, man? Oh no, this has never happened to me. Of course it happens on demo day, right? Let me show you this while I'm at it. This right here is a way for you to know what code was added with what commit. So what code did the AI write, right? So you can actually review that code. And so, for example, let's go back here. This right here, connect to Supabase project. You can see it picked up the connection. It actually wrote some code because we connected to Supabase. It actually brought in the actual URL, a publishable key, some things like that, right? Some things it needs to connect to Supabase and remain connected. But interestingly enough, also you can restore to this point. So in other words, if this actually went wrong, okay, you could come back up here and restore to this point in time, and it would actually restore the application and bring back that commit. I've had to use it before because if let's say I was trying to get a feature in and that feature for some reason just I couldn't get it right. It just wasn't working right. What would happen is I'd have to go back three or four commits and just kind of start over again. And you can see all of the commits here, right? And so something went wrong as soon as I connected to GitHub. There's some kind of bug they introduced with with GitHub for something happened there because that's all that changed. Let's see if we can get this back. Oh, let's see here. For some reason, I'm seeing a welcome to your blank app page at the root instead of the application you built. Let's see if it can figure out what's wrong. Okay, never mind. It's back. And so this application is, let's see here. I'm just getting curious now about how this thing would respond, and then we're going to deploy it. Okay, I'm going to show you how you can deploy it. So we're 30 minutes in. We have a fully functioning application, a fully functioning user interface, and now we're getting ready to deploy it. So there's two ways to deploy it in Lovable. I'm going to show you the one-click button, the one-click wonder. Uh, Either add some actual code, or if this is just a placeholder, maybe throw a to-do in. That's hilarious. Okay, so there's two specific ways. The first one is it's already deployed to this URL. So if we go to that URL, the preview URL, which for some reason is still displaying the your blank app, but you can actually publish this, okay, to to this published site, this published URL. So we can publish that actual um, code to this URL here. Okay. Let it finish publishing. And then I'm going to show you how to publish it to Netlify. I host most of my applications on Netlify. And the reason for that is it's super simple, but also Netlify picks up on the commits to main. And so I can actually commit to main and it'll auto deploy. So I use main basically as an immediate CI/CD. And so while that's publishing there, let's go over to Netlify. We'll log in. Okay. And let's just create a new project. Import an existing project from GitHub. Okay. And that's the other thing is it connects directly to GitHub, right? So it's super simple to do. So we have the snarky. Yep, this is our guy. We'll call it snarky. Let's just see, snarky PR. There we go. Snarky PR. There we go. Let's. Everything else is good. We'll say deploy it, and Netlify will deploy it on its own domain. You can also bring in custom domains. Um, through under domain management. Super simple. You can either buy them directly through here. I buy all my domains through AWS, through the AWS console. You put in two DNS records, an A record and a C name, and you're redirected to it, right? You're running that. But here's the deployed app. Right there it is, snarkypr.netlify.app. It should work exactly the same. Okay, I should be able to put in a code snippet, and let's just do this guy. Let's see what he says about this. Okay. Crafting a roast. Okay. Awesome. It's working, right? One of the things I noticed is we don't have a um favicon, right? We're missing a favicon. And so let's ask it to add a favicon. It'll generate something, commit it, Netlify will push it. We'll watch that happen. So it looks like it's asking me to kind of give it some guidance here. And we have options. We can, and for this demo, we're just going to say use existing favicon. But first, I want to see what that favicon is. We can see that actually in our GitHub repository, right? Let's find our GitHub repository. Easiest way to get there actually would be right here and pull it up here. There we go. And it looks like it said it's in the public folder, favicon.ico. I thought it was going to let me view it here. There it is. Oh, I don't want to use that one. Build me something new. Okay. We're only 36 minutes in, and we have an entirely production ready application that integrates with OpenAI that honestly is a lot of fun. I didn't think it was going to be this amazing, but I feel like I'm going to probably publish this app and just let the world know, um, that let the engineering world know that we have an application that they can um, get some pithy, awesome PR comments now. Now, interestingly enough, the publish, it looks like it failed for some reason. I don't know why, but it doesn't matter to me because I host, like I said, I host everything on Netlify. And so we got it deployed to Netlify already. And let me show you the domain management stuff over here, domain management. So you could buy a new domain right here. So we could do something like snarkypr.com and just see if it exists. Looks like snarkypr.com does exist for 14.99. Something tells me I'm going to buy that domain and host this thing, man. Oh man, that's hilarious. Uh, but you could buy it right here, and it would actually build an HTTPS. Um, yeah, I do. Come on, let's just do this whole thing. Let's commit. Okay, it's actually registering the domain. It's going to put it under around SSL, right? It'll actually build an SSL endpoint or a certificate for it, right? The certificates auto renew. Like, man, this is how fast you can go from nothing to something that is entirely usable in no time. I'm gonna let that finish committing. Okay, timeout. All right. So let's see if it actually committed anything. No. Okay. Looks like Lovable is having a lot of usage right now. Like I've believe it or not, I've never had this many things, like kind of throw an error and stuff like that. It's always been way smoother than this. And so I think they may, with GPT-5 being released, they're integrating GPT-5, into their infrastructure. And so that being said, I have a feeling that they're having some infrastructure overload probably with all of that happening. Lovable is a massive, massive. I think they just hit 100 million annual recurring revenue. Like, and they did it in an unbelievably short, lightning amount of time. So Lovable is a very viable vibe coding platform. Let's let that kind of finish, and why don't you and I talk a little bit? Let's just see what are your thoughts so far on this? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, pretty useful actually. This tool is everybody can use it. No need to code, just using the prompt, they can achieve the task. Actually, very interesting for me.
Yeah, I mean, you could take an idea from nothing to something. Listen, I'm gonna show you Flowsheet in just a minute, okay? And it's an application that probably would have taken a development team, I would say probably 3 months to build. I I
Yeah,
put
correct.
I put 40 hours into it total. Okay, it's unbelievable what you can do with vibe coding today. Um, and I think it's going to revolutionize the industry. I just think a lot of people are slow to adopt it, right? And I think if we can get folks to adopt it, we're going to find that vibe coding will kind of really take off pretty quickly. Okay, it looks like Lovable's still having some issues, so let's just dive right into Flowsheet here. Give me just a second, and I'll share another browser, and I'll walk you through Flowsheet real quick. Unless it's my internet connection, because even Flowsheet's not loading. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so it might be my internet connection. So hopefully that's not the problem. But let's take a look at this. So Flowsheet is a fully integrated, and I do have a small user base using it, uh, personal finance management application. Okay. This application allows you to see your cash flow out 30, 60, and even 90 days. Okay. And so let's just log into this thing. We'll just use Flowsheet user. Okay, so this is just a fabricated account, and let me kind of show you what it looks like from the drop. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of clean up the sheet, and so we're at nothing. So you can here see the kind of the start of the show is your current bank balance, right? And so let's just say it's $25.46. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put in our income and our expenses, but we can all do it. We can do it all from right here. Okay, so we're just going to add some income. We'll say main gig. Let's just say it's $2,500 biweekly starting on August the 8th, on Friday. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add that. And right there, we're out 90 days. And so notice the running balance here and notice the recurring nature of the income. Okay, so you got August 8th, 22nd, September 5th. So 8, 22, 5. Yep, and 19. Yep. So right, it's recurring, right, based on the biweekly nature of it. Okay. Um. Okay. So now let's add some expenses. Let's just say rent, and let's say it's $1,500 a month, right? And let's say it was due on the first, okay, of this month. So we're gonna click that. We're gonna click add. You can see rent shows up monthly. And you can see that already this needs reconciliation because Flowsheet is expecting that to have come through your bank account already, right? So what's happening is you got $25.46. After paying rent, you have negative 1474.54. But then you get paid and then rent, and then you get paid and then rent, so on and so forth, right? But this has actually already come through our bank, so it shouldn't be subtracting this, right? So we're just going to reconcile that. And notice now the balance is 25.46, and now it's okay. And so then what you would do is let's add another expense. Let's say water. Let's do it like me. I here in Sydney, Nebraska, it's all one utility bill basically. And let's say it's $425 usually monthly, and it's due generally on the 5th of every month. So we'll set that in there. And it's assuming that I've already paid that as well because we're already into seventh, right? But and it is true. Let's just say it's already come through the bank. And so here's my cash flow. This is what my cash flow looks like. Okay. And so everything's pretty good. My lowest balance next 90 days is 2,500. This is my net. This is my balance trend over 90 days. So it's plus $11,000. Okay. It goes from this number to this number. I can actually hide reconciled transactions, which you generally want to do because I mean it get to be a pretty long list, but you can definitely look at them. I can group it by week if I want to see how my balance looks over the weeks, right? You can see here there's a net of minus 425, but you can see these other weeks I'm a positive net, right? So what else can this thing do? Because it can do a lot, and like I said, I only wrote like 20 lines of code. Let's get down to like 30 days, or let's just do 60 days. So that's enough to view. So let's see what else it can do. We can, in fact, adjust the amount. Let's say for whatever reason, my utilities for the month of September are actually 415.27. I can add that override, click save, and notice here the base was 425, but this month is 415.27. And so it made the adjustment so that I see a real time, real life cash flow. Okay. And so what else can it do? Well, what if I needed to reschedule an expense? Let's say, okay, that on August 10th, I had a car payment due. Um, car payment one. and let's say it's 900 bucks, okay? Monthly, this is transportation, and let's say it's due on August 10th, okay? Save that. Okay. I'm okay there, but what happens when then also I have car payment two, okay, due for 1,500 bucks, or let's say it's a 2,000. Man, we got a Maserati or something. Okay. And so we're living our best life there. And that's due on August 13th. Okay. Well, now we have a problem, right? Because I can't make that payment. But what I can do, looking at my cash flow, what I can do is I can reschedule this payment to August 22nd. So if I pick August 22nd, reschedule it, now my cash flow stays in the green, right? I can make my car payment and make my rent, still have a little bit of money left. Oh, it looks like I need to reschedule the car payment down here we'll go ahead and set that out to, its current date is September the 13th. So we're just going to push that out to September the 26th. And look at that, my cash flow stays green. It lets you know it's rescheduled, right? It lets you know the date that it was rescheduled from. And then, of course, like I said, in the overrides, it shows you the amount that's overridden. All of this was built by Lovable. What else can it do? It's got some AI features. So we can actually ask it to analyze the sheet, okay, and tell us what it thinks about. It sends anonymous data. It doesn't send any PII. It doesn't send anything that's identifiable. It just sends anonymous transaction data, right, to OpenAI, to allow OpenAI to analyze the sheet and provide feedback um, on the transactions. So let's see what it says. So it's only operating off the current month. So keep that in mind. Once your flow sheet gets going, it's a lot better because it has a larger data set. And so we don't have any savings happening right now. It's trying to give you an idea that maybe you should save a little money. Okay. Balance your budget a little bit. Try and save 10%, which is about $250 of your excess income, right? So 20% of your excess income is what it tries to drive you to. Car payments, it's saying consider selling the car or refinance because you got a lot of money in car payments, right? And so it's recognizing that. Living expenses, it's saying you could look for a cheaper house if you wanted to. I mean, it's a pretty detailed analysis. All that comes from OpenAI to try and give some guidance. So not only have I built in all of this actual expense and income tracking and projection and all that kind of stuff, but I've also built in some AI features. And so it's got a savings feature here saying that it would like to see you save $625. That's 20% of your excess income. 20% of your excess income. Right, here's an analysis on your spending, what your spending may look like by the end of the month, where you're spending your money, all of that kind of stuff. All of this, man, all of this built by Lovable. Every last bit. I probably spent, like I said, 40, maybe I've spent 50 hours building this. You would have never been able to build that in 50 hours ever. And so, um, I'll tell you, I am a huge advocate of coexisting with AI. And that's why I started this whole webinar series. I want our community to stay relevant. If we do not coexist with AI, we will not stay relevant. And we will risk losing our jobs. We will risk losing our ability to provide for our families, right? That will happen. And so I hope, if you have any other questions, I hope this has been valuable to you. Um, and I hope it launches something for you.
Yeah, it's pretty much useful. I'm more excited. I want to try that Lovable on my end.
Yeah, give it a shot. There's a free tier, I think. There's some
Yeah.
relatively inexpensive tiers, right? Where I'm not, I'm using it a lot. So I'm paying for quite a few credits. But know this, the
Okay.
credits do roll over. Okay. So whatever you don't use, they roll over. Um, but use it, build your next big thing, man. Okay. Corporations aren't waiting for you to become great. You may you may be subject to the next thing that happens, right? Take this time to spend 40 hours and build this next big thing, man. And just, I don't know, set yourself up for something, right? Something that you can manage, something you can build, something you can control. Do that, and you have a great opportunity with this, like never before. Never before has it been this good. Well, hey, thanks for joining. I'm going to send the recording out to everybody else that you couldn't make it. I'm going to see if I can set up the recordings to exist on my site, right? So that way you can always get back to them. And just there's another one next week, another one the week after. They're going to try and cover different topics. They're not all going to be lovable, right? They're going to be, how do we use Copilot to edit an existing code base, or how do we use Copilot agent to build something big, but do it in VS Code, right? How do we do that? There's so many things that we need to be able to leverage, that we need to know what's out there. And so, uh, hey man, it was good to see you. It really was. Thanks for jumping
Yeah,
on.
good to see you. Yeah,
I
thank you
hope
so
you have a
much.
great rest of your evening. And
You
man, go
too.
build something great.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you.